Good afternoon. It is May the 24th, 2020. This is the Service Hero Show, 365 Days of Awesome. Celebrate success through service. My name is Tamara Hunter, and today we have a nominated service hero. Let me tell you, I've just been visiting with this gentleman. I can see why. His name is Kellan Fluckiger.
Fluckiger.
Fluker. Okay, you say it. I had it right, and then I got
Fluckiger.
Fluckiger. There we go. Fluckiger, guys. I love his last name, Fluckiger. There we go. Kellan is he's actually right now on top of the world. You could say, wink, wink. Yes, he is serving many people through a variety of different mediums. He has a story that we're going to be talking about that I know is going to inspire many. Truthfully, it's relevant in so many different ways right now. He is also a published author. He is a songwriter. He's into the music industry and so much more. He's teaching people and coaching people and letting people know they can do it. They can get it done. But we're going to let him talk about that and say it in his own words. But the bottom line is this, that anything is possible. And I truly believe that. And we're going to be talking to Kellan right now. He was nominated by Andrea Adams Miller. And yes, he has done a Smiles book. I can't wait to see it. I bet you anything it's going to be very interesting, and I'm glad that I'm seeing who is coming in right now. I'm going to recognize you all because this story is going to, I really think, I know it's going to touch many of you. Rachel, glad you're with us, one of our ambassadors for my organization, Chemo Buddies for Life, one of our other ambassadors of the chat, Helene Wilson, great to see you here as Miss Senior Ambassador. Grateful that you're here, Sherry. You're really going to like this one. I believe all of you are. Thank you for coming and being here to welcome those that will join us. Kellan, how are you doing today?
I'm spectacular. Thank you for having me, Tamara.
It's my pleasure. And actually, we were visiting before going live. And in fact, I got so involved in it. Sorry about your last name. I was very fascinated. This is a gentleman that is, given the nature of the type of business that he's been involved with, he's got an analytical kind of a brain, and yet he's an entertainer, he's a writer, I believe you sing, right? Are you a singer also? Yeah. Right. Okay. So you're a singer also. And he's a storyteller, and he's a multi-dimensional type of a storyteller that I'm ever so curious how he's doing this. He's telling his story with the written word, with the musical word, and with the frequency of music. So let's get into it. You have quite a story, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Short answers, yes.
I mean, really. And I didn't ask. I want to make sure you're an open book about it all now, right?
I'm an open book about it all. When I first wrote Tightrope of Depression, which was a biographical story, I lost sleep for a month about publishing it because I did details, drug addictions, and behind the scenes secret rehab for executives and all that sort of stuff that nobody knew. And so for that to be out in the areas where I had a very high profile career in government and in Congress and, prime ministers and all that stuff in Canada and the United States, the idea that people were going to know about that just scared me to death. And so, yeah, I lost sleep for a month before that came out. I couldn't sleep.
I can only imagine, knowing the world that you came from as I do, I can only imagine that, I had to feel like, okay, I'm going to be just laying it all out there. It's a tell-all book. It's the cards and the chips are going to fall where they may. You came from, like you were saying, a very high profile C-suite in with the different regulations and the government, industries that oversee much of what we expect to have happen in our daily life in our homes. You were one of the top executives that made our countries run. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, it's true. I was in the middle of when they deregulated electricity. It was in commodities, electricity and natural gas, but primarily electricity. And in the late 90s and 2000s, there was an experiment. It's still going on, but started then about deregulating electricity like they'd done with phones and that kind of stuff. And because you can't really store electricity, the market is completely different and it's very difficult. Plus, we have this sort of expectation as a society that there will always be enough, that I can turn on the lights at any time. I mean, you never go to the store, buy a computer, and then turn around on the way out and ask the salesman, oh, will there be enough power on the grid when I plug this in when I get home? I mean, we don't do that. We assume that it'll be there at a reasonable price. Well, markets don't operate like that. And so turning something like electricity over to the market, like they did in Texas and in California and New Jersey and New York and a bunch of different places, and in the province of Alberta, where I am now, was a disaster and an experiment. And it brought all kinds of evil people out of the woodwork who gamed the market, who caused the bankruptcy of big companies like Enron, and all that stuff was all part of that disaster. And I was right square in the middle, like literally the middle of it. The book they wrote about Enron, The Smartest Guys in the Room, my name's in that book.
Oh, wow. You were in the middle of it. Yeah, you're in more than your own books.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they made a movie out of that. And they had these scenes in the movie from the governor's office in the state of California. I was in the real meetings. I wasn't in the movie, but the real meetings that they had between Enron and the governor and what was going on and the catastrophe and all the accusations and crap. I was in the real meetings. So I knew all that. I was in the middle of that. And that was kind of what I was doing for those years in Arizona, mostly in California. And then I got hired by the province of Alberta to come up here and clean up their deregulation mess in 2003. And so I was up here for 4 years redesigning their market and, making it work up here. And I did. And in 2007, I got out of that. But that's 30 years in that business is what I said.
And that's an interesting business. And I remember that time, and I know some people that were at kind of that same level in the group, and there was a lot going on then, so many moving pieces. And I was also a paying customer in the San Diego market. And I remember how the bills were, they went from, you had a decent sized house, your electricity could be $1,300 during the heat. And then, then it started to fluctuate and change and a lot of stuff. And so you were one of the ones that high profile, like you said, movies were made about you. You testified in front of Congress. I know that the watchdogs during that time were out and they were biting, and there was a lot going on, and yet that wasn't the only thing you were dealing with. Now, I do have an obvious question in many ways. Did you get into the habits that were formed because of that industry, or did it have nothing to do with it?
I had been struggling with depression, undiagnosed and untreated all my life. I was raised in a very abusive, authoritarian home, stuff that today would be felony child abuse. I sort of internalized the notion that I was not good enough, and all of the stuff that I did was to prove that I was okay. So I made ridiculous amounts of money, got on the world stage, this, that, and the other, all for terrible, unhealthy, stupid reasons to try to prove something to my family and, particularly my mom. And of course I never got the okay, but the whole thing was just to prove that. And so behind the scenes, I burned through relationships. I was a drug addict. I was in secret bribery money, billions upon billions of dollars were floating around, and I allowed it to destroy me. The pressure was insane, but it didn't have to do that from a personal standpoint. It did to me. I let it to me because I was not grounded. and I was struggling for my own self-worth and value.
And sorry for the delay, guys. I know that we have a little bit of a sound issue, but we're going to just follow through and keep going. So up to this point, you are, you're raised in an environment that's pretty tough. Like you said, that CPS would have come in, or any of these agencies, people would have been in jail. You would have been in a different situation. However, you show up to your adult years. Obviously, you're a smart guy. You do well. You have this secret life going on, very, very visible, and so you're on the two ends of the spectrum, 180 from each other. Whoa, secret dark life, completely in the spotlight. There seemed,
Well, that's why I was so terrified about the book coming out, because the one end didn't know about the other, and I was about to get married in public, you know what I mean? And it was like, holy cow.
That had to, I can only imagine that the sleepless nights, I can only imagine maybe the nervous stomachs. However, I also want to congratulate you and really, in right here, right now, say yes, service hero all the way, all day long, because of the fact that you are out here sharing this story. Because as now, you have a whole nother story now that we're going to be going in, and I understand your website a lot more, that it's done in chapters, and I liked that. I thought it was really cool. I love to do that kind of research, and when I saw the chapters, I thought, okay, this is kind of different and fun and everything, and now it's making complete sense. So you are in the throw of it, and all of a sudden, at some point here, about 13 years ago, there's a whole shift. Now, when did you actually start the recovery piece of things?
So I was a massive drug addict until August of 2007. I had some divine intervention, and God just had other plans. And so stuff happens. It's in tightrope that can't happen. Unbelievable stuff. I'll tell one little story, and that isn't the one that I told you about Joy, but I was at home on a Friday night, and I had because I had everything I had a great big gigantic 60 million inch TV. I never watched TV, but I had one. Why? Because of course you have that kind of stuff, right? Well, it turns out I didn't know how to turn it on, and I didn't ever watch it. And so for some reason on some Friday night, I said to myself, I'm going to watch TV. And then I had to ask my 16-year-old daughter, how do I turn this on? I don't know. So she turned it on and then threw the remote control at me. And so then I started watching, and you know what was on? This reality show, which I didn't know of, which you'll laugh when I tell you what it is, called Intervention. Okay, I accidentally landed on a show called Intervention. I watched about 10 minutes of it, and it was some show about an executive with a cocaine problem. And I said, okay, yeah, we're not watching this. This is not for me. So I turned it off and went and did some other stuff for about, 20 or 30 minutes. And I don't know. I just feel like watching TV, which, again, you got to remember, I didn't even know how to turn it on. I didn't do. I turned it on, and the show started over again at the beginning in the middle of the hour. And no, I didn't have a recording device. And no, it wasn't on the schedule. And no, that can't happen.
Yes, it can.
And so I said, oh,
yes,
fill in the blank. I guess I should watch this.
Yeah.
And it got better from there. I watched that for a half an hour, 45 minutes or whatever it was. Then I went to bed, and I had an out-of-body experience for 17 hours. I got up the next afternoon at 5 o'clock, and I said, okay, we're done. I walked away from my multi-million-dollar contracts. I threw away, I can't tell you how many thousands of dollars worth of drugs that were in my possession. And I said, this is the end. We're doing something new. I don't know what the hell it is, but this is going now. So that's how that started.
I love the story. Thank you for being so open with it. And Tightrope, that great title. Great title. Yes, a miracle. Yes, a miracle. A miracle, absolutely, without question, Sherry. And so that wasn't the only miracle around that period of time, though. You were
No,
on a
the other one
miracle
was the
streak,
story.
weren't
Yeah, the
you?
story that I told you. You want me to share that story? Or
I absolutely do. We
two
love
weeks
those kind of
later,
stories.
two
Yes.
weeks later, before I had actually left the contracts and position that I had, I was in the office. Because of the literally billions of dollars that were at stake in the electricity market, and I was the principal policy decision maker, I used to get money, bribes, wine, tickets, anything that was just small enough so it wasn't a real bribe, but my office was flooded with that stuff all the time. Front row, box seats to this, that, and who knows, right? Hockey in Canada. But anyway, so I got a set of backstage passes to a classical concert by Yo-Yo Ma. And if you know anything about classical music, you know he's the premier cellist in the world. And he's so good that he can do a solo concert in a packed house and keep the audience on the edge of their seats on fire. And it's just one dude on the stage. Anyway, so I got 2 tickets, of course, because they always give you 2. And I was single again for the 3rd time. And I was giving these tickets away to whoever wanted the spare one, to whoever in my office that wanted to go. And so I said, who wants to go see a classical concert? And the lady that worked in one of my groups, and she said, well, I do. And I said, have I given you anything before? And she said, no. And I said, all right, here, fine. Meet me at the Windspear, which was the name of the theater. So we met at the Windspear Theater. And you got to remember, this is 2 weeks after that other thing I just told you had happened. And so we're sitting in the concert, and we had great seats, of course. Mm-hmm. And halfway through the concert, that feeling that I had now come to recognize said, you're going to marry this woman. And I said, I don't think so. I've been married and divorced 3 times. That hasn't worked out so well. Can we not do that, please? And the concert went on, and then we were backstage meeting the director and, all that stuff you get to do. And then the feeling came back and said, yeah, and you need to tell her tonight. And I just about passed out standing there. I said, that's just not happening. Anyway, short story, I did. And it ended about like you would have expected. She thought I was insane and left. And then some other things happened in her life. And 2 weeks later, she left her job. And we have been together ever since for 13 years. And she's magic. She was sent from heaven as part of the thing. It's like we're doing something else and she's part of it.
I love it. I just absolutely love it. And you are where you are right now because of this magical woman, right? You're in.
Yeah, we moved to Phoenix for 8.5 years, and then we moved back up here to Edmonton, Alberta, in the frozen north, because her mom's coming on 89, and she doesn't drive, and she's alone, and so we've been up here. We were coming up here a lot to help her anyway, so we moved up here for we don't know how long, till however long.
Right, and you get to have green screens with beautiful views like that behind you. Yeah, I love it. and so when I was looking at the images, I mean, there were so many that I knew, oh my, what a beautiful story. Didn't know what the story was, but I knew that the story was significant because you don't always see this. And I want to recognize you and Joy, the 2 of you, for being an example to others and inspiration, if you will, to many, because of the fact that there are so many out there, and many within my community too, that when life happens, not everybody stays. Many leave, many things change. And the fact that you've been there and done that 3 times, and then you're like, okay, yeah, pass me on, pass it on to the next one. I don't think so. And yet you did. And what a magical 13 years later, it's still magic.
Oh, nothing like it. She's my business partner. She is a designer. She does the website work. She does the cover work for all the books. She publishes for other clients too. She is married to our mission, which is to help people discover, develop, and manifest their divine nature and gifts. I don't do anything else. I get up in the morning. That's all I do all day till I go to bed. There's no difference between my life and my work. It is my work. You know, God had this in mind, and here we are, and that's all I'm doing until I no longer draw breath. So there's no.
I love it. I love it. You're about, and the first word there on the image right below you, love. Our nonprofit declared 2020 to be the year of love, and that love frequency and everything, that you can do the thing you believe is possible. You can do the thing you believe is impossible, but you are allowing people to then realize it is possible, right? Because I see it both ways. Of course, you know, this impossible is there. However, I always go to the possibility piece of it, and I love this image. And so she's the one that helped with the graphic on that.
All of them. She's
all of them. Because I absolutely love your items, you know, the pointing at it, and you know, they're creative and they're fun, and I'm going to share a few more. But okay, so let's talk about this. You can do the thing you believe is impossible. That's your banner. And like you said, that you have a mission, you have a message, you have a purpose, you have a huge story. Yes, you've lived large and you've lived quietly, and you've lived two separate lives that converged upon each other, and then it propelled you into where you are right now with the love of your life partner, and you know, business, and in many ways, Joy. And you are out there. You have for 13 years now, you have coached and helped, it says here, hundreds, many people to find their possible, to.
So hundreds is the people I can give you names of. You know, people that are my followers, there's thousands. But here's the thing. We all, 2 years ago, I had a near-death experience. I went in the hospital and I died. I was in a coma for 3 weeks, and I had a conversation with God, 3 conversations actually, with God at the door between life and eternity. And the first question in the first conversation was really simple. Do you want to come home?
Right.
And so we talked about that for a while, and I said, I'm not finished. No, I have some stuff to do. And the reason I tell you that is the second conversation was something. The second conversation was a lot longer, and it has turned into the book of context, which you referred to earlier. And the reason it's relevant right now in the conversation is we live in what I call a context straitjacket. We only do or attempt the things we think we can do when we believe something is, like people didn't set sail when they thought the earth was flat, so they didn't do those things. We don't think this is possible, so we don't. And the truth is, and came out of that conversation when I was talking to God, and I said, well, if we are divine and we have these gifts and talents, which was part of what he was telling me, I said, why is it that we settle for crumbs?
Good question.
Why do we settle for crumbs? And I don't know if in the economy of heaven, brevity is a virtue, but the answer was 4 words. Because you don't believe. And he was talking in general, not just me. Right. And so he said,
right, yeah, right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Breathing hard. So what do I do about that? And the answer was, glad you ask. And the book of context is the answer.
Okay. I know where I can get the book. It's on Amazon, guys. I know I'm not the only one that's going to be now getting this book and reading it because
It's funny because it's turned out that, like, like the Lord of the Rings had the Hobbit and then the
yeah,
three
I love
volumes of the
them.
Lord
Yeah,
of the
oh yeah, oh
Rings.
yeah. I read
So
them all. I
Meeting
love
God
them
at the
all.
Door
Yeah.
is the Hobbit. The Book of
Okay.
Context is volume 1. Walking Without Fear is volume 2. And volume 3 is still underway. So that will come out next year. So there's going to be 4 books, Meeting God, and then a trilogy afterward that all came out of that
That
conversation. It
experience.
was not, yeah, you see a light down there and it's this stuff. It was real. It was there. It was a
Right.
conversation. It was across the door between life and eternity. And there was no question who I was talking to and where I was and what was going on.
Wow. Wow. I mean, wow. I don't become speechless very often, guys. Not at all. However, I have known enough people and I have also done a lot of research on this subject matter. And the fact that you were able to have the kind of conversation that you're talking about in depth off of the question that started and then the answer, and then the continued information. This is huge. Now you what you're doing with this is multi. I kind of alluded to it in the beginning. You are adding to the books other elements, correct?
Yeah, well, they're just more. So there's a thread, and the thread is we start with desperately clinging to control of our own lives. And when we realize that the key to freedom and power is surrender, then we come and we say, okay, I have these gifts and talents. What do I need to do with them? How can I be of most service? And that is the beginning of question. And when you get past that, then that's when Walking Without Fear, which is the next volume, comes in, which is okay, then I can literally walk without fear. The first time I spoke to an audience about this near-death experience, there was a lady in the audience who said to me, and there was an not unexpected, but unplanned for question. She said, so what's the most powerful, profound, or I can't remember the exact word, that because of this? And I said, I no longer experience fear. And then I realized later that that had to be the name of the next volume because the Book of Context was already written. So Walking Without Fear was done a few months ago. And I'm not going to tell you what the name of the fourth one is.
Okay.
But
All
it's
right.
coming.
We're just gonna have to stay in tune. Stay tuned, guys. Follow Kellan. And this is intriguing. So you now have included with the written word, you have incorporated your love of music and writing of music also, right?
I have. The Tightrope of Depression, when I published that 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I had the sense 5 years, 4 years, I don't know, it doesn't matter, that I needed to write some music. I wasn't just going to write a book. So I wrote an album of songs called The Name of the Black, which is, some of them are they're exactly what you think, right?
Okay. All
Okay, and they
right.
all have words and their stories and everything. And then the second album is called Promise and Power. And so they're the recovery light side powerful songs, and that goes with volume 2 of Tightrope, which isn't out yet, but will be in September, which is called Down from the Gallows. So and those 2 albums are written and they're all recorded. I am in the process of finishing the mixes, and they'll be out between now and September. And September is when Down from the Gallows is supposed to be out. And I named it Down from the Gallows because it's in keeping with the rope theme. So Tightrope
Oh
of
yeah. Oh
Depression
yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
Down from the Gallows. So
I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it.
and there's
I'm loving
22
it.
songs, 11 on each album they're written in pop style, meaning they've got lyrics and tell stories and the whole thing. So yeah.
And do you do all the performing on it? Do you do all?
Everything. I've owned a recording studio for a long time. So written, arranged, performed, everything, start to finish that's why it's taken me 4 years.
Still, I mean, it's coming from you, and with your history and everything that we're learning about you right now, we can see why it needs to come from you, because there's something very unique and very special about you and your existence here in the earth right now. And so let me ask you this, because I know that I have been talking to a lot of people about how they have been helping others during this period of time. Now, I know that on May the 24th, 2020, some areas of the United States and of the world are starting to have some of the restrictions lifted. Other areas, such as mine, Southern California, not so much. We still get to have our day in the sun in the backyard. So where are you at in all of that? And what have you been doing during this period of time? Because many of those that feel called, many of those that have the kind of messages that you have, many have found ways to serve others. I'd love to know what you've been up to.
So it's funny you should ask. About a month and a half ago, or almost 2 months ago, somebody called Joy, who knows me and stuff, and said, "Does Kellan have a podcast?" And I had a 1.5-year talk show on LA Talk Radio a few years ago, and I've done some of that, but I didn't have a current podcast. And so she said, yes, and it'll start in a week. And so we have been doing that for now a month and a half. We just published episode 51.
Wow.
And it's daily, and it is called Your Ultimate Life. And it's on iTunes and all the regular places. And it is directly in response to this and in response to somebody who wanted to be motivated and hear my conversation. Does Kellan have a podcast? And so the answer was, yes. Okay.
Of course. Yes.
So 2 months ago, we started that, and it's now up to episode, like I said, 51. The other thing we're doing is I've had many different YouTube things, but we've turned one of the channels into a corresponding Your Ultimate Life YouTube channel. And we're starting to populate that with similar motivational, overcoming obstacles, and you can do this and that sort of videos that we're making. And so those are the two things that I'm doing directly. Neither one of those is business related. Obviously, podcasts are free and YouTube's free, but it's what I'm doing because I can and because people need it.
Right. And I love it that you're doing that. I love it. And, I did capture a few of your images that I thought were just kind of really spectacular. I love this. So what do you see? And let's start with that one. And now that you've explained what you've been doing recently, a daily podcast, that's quite the chore. I love the fact that you're doing that and you're giving back in so many ways. What do you see when you see that image? What do you think?
I see the way I get up every day, and I know this is going to sound, I don't know what it's going to sound like. People are going to create out of it whatever they want to. I don't get out of bed in the morning until I feel enlightenment. I feel committed, a sense of recommitment and power. I have a morning ritual that I go through to refocus, to make sure I remember without hesitation of any kind why I'm still here, what I'm doing. When that episode in the hospital left me completely destroyed, I couldn't walk, I couldn't move, I lost 40 pounds, I could barely move. I put myself back in shape. I can do push-ups now, I can run, I do some stuff. So that has been a challenge, but I love it. It's like, bring it on. Bring it on. And the reason is because we all have them, whether it's my clients whose businesses have been destroyed because of COVID, or whether it's another friend of mine whose wife got terminal cancer, not COVID. And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter. Your experience in life is what you choose to have. And if you choose to live in sorrow and misery, then me and others like me try to give you light. But the true calling that we all have is to be divine light bearers. And if we choose to see that, then it doesn't matter what the landscape around us is. The light that we see is what's in our hearts and in our eyes.
I love that. Yes, and how your joy creating this, I thought how beautiful it was on multiple different layers. Something so simple and yet not. And because you can really read into this in a variety of different ways. The way that you just explained it, it makes that much more sense, because the fog really does, it allows for it to go either way. You can go either way in that fog. You can see it where from wherever you are. You come to that image from where you are. Yet fog, can always lift. It can do a variety of different things. There's so many things that can happen. And your explanation of how you show up to your day, I absolutely appreciate you sharing that, because I've known others. My mother was in many ways like that. She would not have explained it the same way, but many of the same concepts. And she would find that purpose. She would get in tune with herself and then show up for the day with that ready to go. And it was like, okay, I'm here. Let's do it. It's like, okay, I'm on now. I'm ready. I've got the mojo. And she lived for 34 years in tremendous pain. So it was not an easy thing for her to show up. However, she did, and she showed up ready to serve others. And then I see this one: transformation is never something imposed from the outside, but awakened on the inside. Goes hand in glove with what you just shared, right? What do you think?
The things that, the principle is that you get what you look for, you find what you seek. And if you want to have and be a different life, transformation starts on the inside. If we say, I'll be happy when this happens, when COVID's over, when my business is back, when my illness is over, when the money's okay, when the relationship's fixed, when this, when that, that's all subject to some externality. And if Viktor Frankl can write Man's Search for Meaning out of a concentration camp, if I can die and crawl out of an operating room and get back up, and your listeners can do the same thing, the answer is yes, we can. And life is awesome. I saw somebody just put that up there. Yes, it is. I'm breathing. And the purpose that I have today is to help somebody get one rung higher on the ladder of joy, on the ladder of consciousness. Who can I help? And that's why my 3 words that I live by are love, create, serve. And they are my 3 power words: love, create, serve.
I love it. That the frequency of love, the rungs, as you're saying, we've been using this image a lot. So that's why I had it already loaded within our organization, because, when you're dealing with any kind of a health challenge, when you're dealing with other things that are going on in life, not just COVID, those people that have been affected by cancer and whatever level they have been, there is an awakening that can take place when there is when you're open to it, and when you start seeing the power and the frequency of things like joy, peace, enlightenment, love, reason, all the different aspects within that ladder. Going back to your image here, love, create, serve. Love, create, serve. And in helping people to see that the thing that they believe you can do that thing. Now, you help people. How do you help them? I'm ever so curious because your
So
story is
I have a
immense.
coaching practice. My business is I'm a coach. So
Okay.
I work with high performers or people who want to be high performers. And always they come and they have this sense of, I want to do more. I want to be something. What is the next thing, the next level? Often it's not about money. Sometimes it is. I need to grow my business. But if it is about money, it's about so that I can do something else. So that, because I don't take clients. I mean, I'm really picky anyway, but about clients, but I don't take someone that's just in it so I can have some more cash, so I can buy some more stuff, so I can be cool. I live that life. I'm not interested in helping anybody do that. But somebody that wants to have a mission or that thinks they do and needs to discover it and has the story of I'm too old, it's too late, I can't, I already failed, nobody will listen. What do I have of value? I mean, the list is endless. Then how we do it's conversation, coaching. I have all kinds of resources, books that I've written and read, other people's stuff. I meet weekly with people on Zoom. I have clients all over the world. And the key is they have to be willing to do the work, because that transformation that starts within takes the blood, sweat, and tears to build it. It doesn't just happen. Like those things, those stories I told you happened to me. But after they happened, if I didn't show up day after day and time after time and ignore the stories and fight through the pain and the sadness and the hurt and the battlefield left behind me of kids that still won't talk to me, some of them, and all of those things, if I continued to internalize and blame and be bitter about all those things, I couldn't show up for anybody. And so that funnel you showed, you get to choose if you live in the purple. And
Right.
that's the thing people don't realize. They think, well, this and this happened, so I can't. And that's just not true.
Right. Absolutely. And so you're helping people with the love, and and I'm thinking of the love and the because there has to be an element of that healing. And as a coach, I would think now that I'm loving your story. I'm getting like this overwhelming feeling that it's like that image you have right there, that you're up here and that river or the waterway that's going and it's meandering through, and it's finding its path, and you're helping others to find their path. And if they have to heal from whatever it may be, if they need to find that love, if they need to do whatever it may be that they need to do, if they're willing to do the work, then you're willing to show up there and help them and to find whatever it may be.
So here's how I explain this. This
Okay.
line on the bottom, we call the goal line. The goal line is, I got to make this much money. I got to start this business. I got to sell these products. The goals that we have in life.
Right.
This line here is the soul line. And so what I know from is every single barrier that we have on the goal line to growing my business, to changing my life, to losing weight, to getting anything I want, any barrier on the goal line is a problem on the soul line.
Yes.
So if
absolutely.
you fix this problem, you can create anything you want. And so what I do is they identify the barrier, the thing that they can't seem to get. And so we'll figure out why. How are you showing up in life? Where else are you showing up that way? What's the story you have about yourself behind that barrier? Let's get that fixed. Try this, try that. The Book of Context is an experimenter's guide about how to change your beliefs, because it came from, oh, glad you asked, because you don't believe. Okay, good. Here's how to change those beliefs. You're not married to them. You got them somewhere. You can do something new. So let's figure out how to do it. The Book of Context is the guide to do that.
Yeah.
And it didn't come from me. It came from that conversation. So
right. Yeah, I'm getting
how to
it.
make those changes.
Yeah, I'm getting it and I'm feeling it. And in fact, I didn't want to just put it up there until you mentioned it, but I almost did, because it was like, okay, yeah, this is totally making sense. I am feeling it. Thank you, Andrea Adams Miller, for all you do in your life. And for all of those that you have nominated, Andrea, because you know each and every single person that I have met recently is just absolutely spectacular. And you know, I want to say to you, Kellan, that your story, the fact that you're so real with it, the fact that you have had not only the experiences 13 years ago, then the experiences again 2 years ago, now you're out here, you are an example. Because for those that do not understand how difficult it can be when you have some kind of a life-threatening kind of an ailment like what happened with Kellan, and then you need to rebuild your life on multiple different levels, having to do with the physical also, because there's the physical, the emotional, the mental that all play into this healing. And the fact that you're running, the fact that you're doing the things that you're doing, and then you show up for the day ready. You make sure, whatever time that may be, you make sure that you're ready to go out there and show up for the day. You are an inspiration to those people that right now there's so many that are saying, because I'm hearing it, that, you know, wow, we have some double and triple whammies going on right now. You know, you hear things like you have a big disease, and then you have the shutdown situation with, you know, pandemic. Then you have some losses because it might have the financial piece to it. And yet what you're saying here is the lack of getting over that fear, that you don't fear anymore because you've learned, you've been taught, you've had the discussion, you have the book of context, you have a life now that, okay, you're living your life. Yeah, you've had a few challenges and a few more and then a few more, yet you're showing up without that 4-letter word. You're exchanging it for some other 4-letter words.
And the thing is, you know what I know for sure is that I'm not special.
Yeah.
Any person has every ounce of support, of encouragement, and love from both sides
Exactly.
that I
Thank
do.
you. Thank
I
you for
am not
sharing that.
special. I am not privileged. I'm just somebody called with a message.
Right. A very important message.
Yes.
Yet. And I will put this out there though for you, and this is that you are a man that gets things done. You've proven that through your career, the type of roles that you've had, type of things you've done, the fact that you could even have the split life that you did. Man, not many people could pull that one off. You had to be kind of like on top of your tiptoes on that to pull it off as long as you did. And so with that, those are certain types of behavioral traits. You are someone that will get something done. So you are getting it done. You took that message and you are sharing it. Not everyone would. And so I do want to say that is important for you to realize that there was a reason. You know, we all, I'm going to put it out here, we all are special. Every person is special. We all have different talents,
One of
and
the
we have
things I
choices.
knew in those visits was that every person not only has gifts and talents, but has a mission and a
Yes.
purpose that you agreed to and were excited about before you got here. And you may have been beat down and discouraged, and you know these things have happened. But I know because I had conversations that you listening to this right now have a purpose and you have the gifts and talents, each one of you, that you need to do that, and that all the help that you need from either side is available. I know that you have that, and that's why I said I'm not special any more than anybody else, because every person came from that place and with that equipment.
So now it's time for them to, if they're not aware of it, to know it. And it's time for them to get in touch with it. And if nothing else, they can go and they can read your books. They can follow you. And they can find out, do that internal work. It's like you said, when you wait until you are motivated every day to get out of bed. Once you get that motivation, you feel that energy, you feel that calling, whatever it may be that day, whatever that spark is that gets you out, then you go and do something about it. And
so let me be really clear. I'm up by 5 or 6 every day. I don't lay in bed till X o'clock. I can't. I wake up and I will think about and meditate. I spend some time. The first 5 books I wrote were on meditation. So I'll go into meditation and get connected spiritually and think about what I'm doing today and who I've got to talk to. I thought about you and what this was going on today. And I've also had a meeting with Joy because we were talking about the YouTube channel, and we had a strategy meeting about that. I've got 2 more podcasts to do when we're done with this. And I knew that. And it's not about, oh, I got this stuff. It's like, I can't wait.
Yeah. What message and who do you get to touch? And I love that. And yes, and I'm glad you made that clear, because I kind of just, having the feeling of the kind of person that you are, I kind of knew that okay, yeah, no, I could not even imagine you sleeping in like that kind of a thing. And yeah, if someone heard it, oh yeah, well, Kellan does. Well, you know what, Kellan listens for that inspiration, is what I'm understanding, and takes those moments to do the practice that he's written about in multiple books, and that's meditation. And there's so much power in all of that, and there's so much clarity in that, and intention and purpose that can come from it. And so those that watch this in live or replay, I really want to put a challenge out there, and then I'm going to give you a few moments. I'm going to drop down from the line for a few moments, and I'm going to let you share whatever you're feeling inspired, and nugget, whatever you feel inspired to share. But I want to put a challenge out right now, especially for my community. And that is, if you don't know, if you're not feeling inspired, what your mission is, let's help you tap into that. Because we were just educated that we have the guides, we have the tools from both sides to be able to help find that and fulfill that purpose, that mission. And many within our community, I know, are called. Yet I don't know that all of you are totally into that. So I would love to put that as a challenge. Let's put that into the closed chat. Let's talk about this again. We will do some exercises, because I love this. I absolutely love it. I'm going to get your books. I'm going to do some reading, and you've inspired me, Kellan. So I am going to drop down from the line. I'm going to let you spend a few minutes, give us a nugget or two, and whatever you're feeling inspired, and then we'll close the show out as soon as I come back up.
Okay. Thank you. First of all, I want to express deepest gratitude to Andrea for expressing the desire to have me be on the show and talk about service. Service is the foundation of our lives as people. We are most blessed and most happy when we are in the service of others. I haven't always known what my mission is, and I don't work with clients and advise them to go on a hunt, like digging up treasure in the backyard to find their mission. I don't mean it like that. Sometimes you know, and sometimes you don't know exactly what it is. What I do know, is that it includes service. And so one of my podcasts, for example, is called The Ultimate Life, or Your Ultimate Life. And here's how I define that. Your ultimate life is a purpose-driven life in serving others with your gifts and talents. Now, you know that you're divine. You know that you know how to serve. If you're into Christianity, one of the things in the New Testament that talked about Jesus was that Jesus went about doing good. So there's a place to start if you haven't got any, and that's not unique to Christianity. The idea that we need to know, I have a little saying, it's kind of funny. I say, clarity is overrated. It is not found, it is created. And I say that because so many people act like they've got to go find clarity before they can get into action. And that's not true. I can promise you that the mere act of constantly and intentionally doing good, whether you're getting paid or it's part of your work or whether it's just part of who you choose to be, that action will create more clarity for you. It's like being in the middle of fog. If you want to go somewhere and you're in a foggy place and you can't tell, start moving. Because with each movement, things will either get foggier or clearer. If they get foggier, that's the wrong direction. If they get clearer, keep going. So clear enough for action. Taking steps, taking movement, trying different things. That's how I found. And yeah, I had some amazing things, and maybe it's because my head was thick and I was a little slow. Maybe others don't need quite the 2x4. I don't know. What I know is service, love, and an intention to do good will lead you to your purpose and your divine gifts. And whatever it is, it is. And the idea, follow your passion, you get paid and stuff. Sometimes you can marry your passion with a business. I've been able to, but I have a passion of doing music, and I don't know, I write books and I don't make tons of money on books or music. I make some, but my business is coaching. So the service that I give, creating podcasts and YouTube, some of that might create a client and it might not. Don't hesitate. Don't be afraid. Walking without fear is your birthright. And looking in your heart every hour, what would love do? Who can I help? Who can I serve? That's how I've built the most success, even business-wise, is asking those questions. In fact, I have a little sign on my wall that says, I never look for clients. I look for people to love, opportunities to serve, and problems to solve. And in that context, my business has been thriving.
Well, I'm glad that you shared what you just shared, because you brought it home. Service. And so thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for the inspiration that you've shared with all of us today. I am going to, we have a little bit of echo, and I'm not going to worry about it right now. But as we close today, which is May 24th, 2020, the Service Hero Show, 365 Days of Awesome, Celebrate Success Through Service. Kellan, you are a service hero. I can see why Andrea has referenced you, has said I had to interview you. In fact, she put you in on my calendar, and she just did. She just said, this is happening, Tamara. And I can see why. When she does that, I know that there's some real special reason. And I will also say it is never an accident what day you are put on. And today, being May the 24th, this Sunday, the weekend of Memorial Day, there is no question in my mind that this was a divine appointment. You were meant to be here, that there are people that are meant to hear what your message is, be inspired by it. I know I needed to hear it. I did, and I am going to read your books. And I am grateful that you were here, because you actually fed me today, and I can't even say thank you enough for that. So you have served, if nothing else, you served me, and I know you've served many others, but thank you for your time today.
You're welcome. Thanks very much.
All right. Well, you make it a great day, and I know you've got a lot going on. And then for the Chemo Buddies for Life, we have in our closed chat tonight, it is game night, so show up at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. You know, it's always fun. It's kind of that family feel on Sunday. We're getting together in the chat. See you there. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.